so happy we alive.
And I think that these tools, podcasting and websites, especially the interactive content that you can find illustrated greatly by this conference room, this is really where the movement can come together on a national level. I think that Normal and a lot of organizations do great local organization. But here at this conference today, this is the National Normal Conference. You'd think that 20,000 people would be here. And what could tie all of these different state chapters and all of these different localities together are conference chat rooms at Mapping and listening to podcasts and having that common lexicon, that common dialogue between themselves. So when you think about high-tech communications and you think about advocacy in that end, don't be thwarted. It seems like it might be tough. It seems like, oh man, I'm making a website. How do you do that? Seriously, I don't want to give a free plug here, but if you go get a MySpace page for free and start playing around with a little HTML, you'll know everything you need to know about being online. And as far as podcasting goes, if you ever had a little tape deck and a microphone before, it's just as easy now. You just plug a microphone into your computer, hit record, bam, you're recording audio. So don't be thwarted by technology. Use technology, play around with it, and make it work for you. Make it work to bring people together. I mean, media, for me, this experience with Normal News has been incredible for me. I get segments distributed nationally all the time, short form social justice interviews with authors and things like that. But nothing that I have produced has ever had the kind of national draw to it like Normal News. And to me, there's only one answer to bringing this nation together behind this movement. To me, it's online. So I hope all of you in this room, everybody out here is a media anarchist like I am, and wants to see the mainstream media become you and I. So let's talk about this a little bit. I know that there are a lot of folks in the room. I see some laptops open. We don't have I'm going to go turn on your mic, Steve. I'm going to run to the back and turn you up. Feel free to raise your hand and ask us any questions, and also raise some comments, but wait until I get back.
So I can turn up Steve's mic.
And one thing I meant to say too is a lot of activists, sometimes I'll go to a festival or something and they say, what can I do? Like I live by myself, I know what's going on, but I'm not necessarily in an organization, and writing letters to the editor is a wonderful way to spend some time and possibly influence people's perceptions. You can write a letter in an hour, and I'll tell a little story. I got into this movement. I decided I was going to write a book several years ago about how bad the drug war was, and so everybody would know. And then, people would realize the drug war was bad, and it would be okay, and it would go away. That didn't happen, but I did write the book, and I published it myself. I kind of did the be your own media thing, and it was a generally positive experience. I sold a few hundred copies. I put the text online, and maybe 20, 30,000 people looked at it. Got some nice comments and everything, and it was great. But that's like 2 years worth of work. Now, there's another time when I saw an editorial in the Wall Street Journal that irritated me to no end. So I said, okay, I'll just write a letter about this. I wrote that letter in an hour, sent it off. In about a week, it was published. Now, not everything gets published. That was potentially seen by millions of people, as opposed to the hundreds or thousands that saw the other projects. So it's really it's a low investment with a very possible high return. It's kind of a crap game or whatever. You're not going to get published every single time, but you can really get into the dialogue and impact the dialogue that way.
I just want to mention one more thing, Steve, and one thing we've missed out on this high tech. I'm a blogger. I've got my own blog out there. I'm not sure how many of you participate in blogs, but for those of you who've never done it, do it. Get out there and start writing. It is the most important part. Before we can make radio, before we can make a podcast, before Steve can put out his newsletters, people have to write these things. And the more people, it's kind of hard to describe the process of writing if you've never done it before, but dive right in, write about anything. Because the more people that are out there exploring this subject in text, posting blogs, the more content Steve and I have to pull out there, and the more of a chance that this message is reaching more people. So blogging, really, talk about cheap, easy ways to do it. Writing letters to your editor, and then post that letter in your blog too. So make sure you get a blog out there. They're free, they're easy, and it really is one of the best ways, not only to hone your writing skills, but to help out a movement. So let's open it up to questions. Let's make sure your mic is on.
Test 1, 2.
All right. Yes, sir.
Is there such a thing in your mind as surfeit of information? I mean, if everyone is blogging, if everyone is doing all this stuff, when does anybody have time to absorb any of this massive amount of information?
Well, I think it's interesting. Steve is actually better suited to this one because he actually takes all that information and puts it into.
Yeah, well, we try. That's a good question, especially with the explosion of blogs. I know what you're saying because they're like I don't know if any of you read blogs. There's one out of Chicago called Drug War Rant. It's not really out of Chicago. It's out of Illinois. A guy I know named Pete Geiser does it, and I read that religiously when it first started about 2 years ago. And now there's more. Like there's other drug policy blogs, and it's hard to keep up with everything. Now at the Media Awareness Project, what we try to do, we try to offer opportunities to segment down into smaller categories. If you go to our front page, we're begging for money there.
Shameless self-promotion.
This list of topics here, you can see like in the blue type in the bottom and towards the middle, those are all subject areas. So if you're interested in a particular subject, but not every single piece of drug news, you can narrow it down that way. We also have a really nice search engine that will narrow down by author, by source. You can pinpoint the type of information that you want with our service. Now that doesn't, you can still get overwhelmed if you don't know how to pinpoint. But like I said, the other thing that we try to do is I do this newsletter every week. And it is, there's a lot of news every week, but it's kind of, it's a quick summary, you can read it in an hour, and I know there's other organizations that do that sort of thing. But yeah, I think though, what you're getting at though, I think when people are disseminating information, they're also absorbing other information, and it's more about getting hooked into it and not making it a one-way thing that you're overwhelmed with. It's like kind of like, it has to be a give and take.
I also think too, I don't mean to down on all the bloggers out there in any way, but if you're producing a blog, with straight marijuana truth information, unfortunately, there aren't too many blogs out there like that. Most of the blogs that relate to war against drug policy are a little bit more in the, I don't want to generalize, but it's like, there are a lot of podcasts out there that are like the Stoner Cast, and that's the podcast. And unfortunately, that's not a whole lot of real, truthful marijuana information. So if you do create a blog with a lot of, more of the blogs out there are like the Stoner blog, instead of like the normal blog. So, if you create an honest blog about truthful information, I'm sure you're not going to find too many out there. You're not going to get a big glut of those right away. Yes, sir.
I had subscribed to the list before and got occasional the weekly, of course, and then now I'm on the GIP4 listserv, and we get pretty much all of them. Is there a way you can go to the site and get them as they're released?
Yes, there's you're talking about the audio podcasts?
No,
the text news.
The news release.
Yeah, I know.
News article.
Actually, what we do, we have kind of, do you subscribe to the list or do you just go to the website and look them up?
Currently I'm on GIP4.
Okay, and do they get...
Alan Erickson's in Oregon, he posted that. I thought it came out of you, maybe it's Alan.
It probably does. A lot of our news stories get used by a lot of organizations, like Normal National on their front page has a list of news stories. They all come from MAP. And I know that there are other people who send out compilations of stories that they think are important. You can get, if you get on one of our map lists, you can get the news as it comes, or at least as it gets edited through our system. Usually it takes 24 hours or something from the time you submit a story until it'll get up on the front page where people can see it, or it'll come to you as an email. But if you go to our page and there's one of those things that one of the links says lists. You just sign up for a list, and again, you can get it segmented. You can get all the news. You can get just cannabis news. You can get heroin news if you're into that. Whatever you want. Is that kind of answer? I'm sorry. Is that answer a question?
Well, kind of. I get it. I seem to get it a lot faster than people who aren't on. GIP4's a closed list.
Okay.